Catuaba. This is the new herb that Lucas, Owen, and I today chat about. Lucas of Booster Biology is an expert in human health optimization, nootropics, biohacking, testosterone, all the fun stuff. Lucas and I have had several conversations in the past. I'd highly encourage you to go check those out. And today, not only do we talk about Catuaba and many of other nootropics, peptides, and things to help give you the edge and ultimately feel your best. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Michael Moeller, and I do my best to bring you more health, wealth, and wisdom. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can go ahead and hit that like button. And if I messed something up, if Lucas missed something, or there's just some information that you felt we should have included, please leave that in the comments below. Also, below in the description, I have some coupon codes for discounts for some of the products we even chatted about today, like Phenylpiracetam from Cosmic Nootropics. There's a discount code down there for you, along with discount codes for some of my other favorite products like Peptides BPC 157. Last but not least, if you're new here, I'd love to have you around for future episodes. So please hit that subscribe button to stick around. I hope you enjoy the podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have back on the podcast the man that brought you Sustanch in the pants, sun in your balls, the nootropics from the cosmonauts of Russia, the man, the myth, the legend, Lucas Owen, the guy and myth behind Booster Biology. Lucas, good to have you back, man.
Yeah, man. It's always fun chatting. And I love talking about all things biohacking, optimizing performance, and like you mentioned, sunning the balls and also icing the balls.
Sunning, icing, and now we're even doing it, I've heard, with the butthole. Is that a thing now too, I guess?
I've seen people do that, at these wellness
You've been watching
retreats.
them? You've been watching them? What do you mean you've seen them?
There's some funny posts on Instagram where there's like they basically take the piss out of these wellness retreats. And like the first thing that they do when they rock up to the retreat is they just see everyone on the balcony, like shining the sun in their, rectum or something like that. So I've never done that personally. So I'm not as wild as those guys.
My nurse practitioner asked me before the podcast, she goes, coffee enemas, what do you think? I was like, if you're constipated, maybe. I don't know. Are you a coffee up the butt kind of guy too, or?
Dude, I've got so many naturopathic buddies that like swear by it, and they do it like maybe once a month. Mm-hmm. I still haven't tried it yet, man. Like I just haven't had a chance to try it.
Yeah, it's not on the top of my list. What I would like to try out is some of the stuff we're going to be chatting about today. So if you've been around for a while, Lucas and I have had great conversations, nootropics, all things human optimization. And Lucas has found a new product from deep inside the Amazon rainforest. I hadn't really heard about it until you had brought it up to me. So I'm super excited to chat about that. Catuaba.
Yeah. So it's Catuaba. Also, it's got a really technical Latin name, which we won't try and get into. But herbal medicines have some weird, wacky names. But man, it's a pretty exciting new herb. I mean, you've been in the space for years, so you've seen the popular ones like ashwagandha, shilajit, tonkarali, fedosia, pine pollen. Like these are herbs that have sort of made their way into the male performance arena and tribulus. And I was like deeply curious about what else is out there. Like I'm always just trying to see like what more is there that we can leverage or utilize as part of our own performance and modulating neurotransmitters and things like that. And that's when I actually came across Catuaba like over 5 years ago. And I've known about it, I've prescribed it, I've used it, and I've got a lot of data on this particular herb. And when people are probably thinking like, what is it? Like, what's it known for? The traditional usages, like what actually made me? I mean, I've me, I've researched thousands of different, ingredients, herbs, supplements, and I could have started my very first supplement to be really, it could have been anything. Like I had so many amazing options to choose from, but I chose Catuaba as the beginner as the very first supplement, because number one is that I wasn't seeing any like solid Catuaba products on the market. So that's number one. I felt like there was like a desperate need for like a third party tested Catuaba, because as both you and I know, that most herbal supplements on Amazon are actually like fake, right? Like they're literally just garbage. So that was my mission, is like, all right, let's hunt down a legitimate Catuaba, put it into a capsule, get it third party tested, and we eventually made it. Like we eventually achieved that. We made our way through that process, which took 9 months. It took us so long to even think of like just a brand name, which our brand name is In Before, which we officially got the trademark for the US, by the way, yesterday.
All right.
So
Congratulations. That's no
that was
small feat. All
I
the
know.
names are taken for everything. If you haven't
Everything, man. Everything. It took us about 6 months to find or think of a name that was like trademarkable and that actually wasn't taken. Like you said, like there are so many, all the good names were basically gone. Like when you look at it. So that process took a long time, but yeah, Catuaba is, I think it's special because it's in Brazil they actually classify the herb as like, it's like one of the most famous aphrodisiacs in Brazil, right? Like it's really, really well known in Brazil. It's like an aphrodisiac and as a mood booster, as an energy tonic, sort of like ginseng is to Chinese medicine. This is sort of like this to Brazilian medicine. And they give it the nickname the tree of togetherness, and also like the Tupi tribes used to say that it they call it as like what gives strength to the man. So it's like got all these, you know, Sistanch was Sistanch in your pants, and Catuaba's got its own nice historical origins.
Yeah, you don't got a rhyme for this one yet? Chachaba, the swab, I'll have to think about it.
There is actually one that's I've seen, you know, floating around on the internet. It's something about like until the sun is 60, the sun is his. After that, until a father reaches 60, the sun is his. After that, the sun is Catuaba's or something like that. So it's like the evolution of boy to man or something like that.
Interesting. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll entertain us and find something pretty funny. So kind of like I said, I think would also be a good idea is to take a step back and maybe chat about nootropics in general and optimization, you know, maybe some tools that you like, how you got to where you were. You know, we've gotten to chat before, uridine monophosphate, alpha GPC. So maybe we can start with some things people might be a little more familiar with, and then we'll work our way into the Catuaba. I can't, it's funny, dude. I can't, English is hard. You're like talking about saying Latin. Like,
yeah. Well, let's start with we can definitely start with like commonly used ingredients that people would know about. L-tyrosine, which is,
so
you know,
let's chat with some of your favorites. What are some guys like, I'm a guy, I'm coming to work with you, and you're like, all right, why do I need to increase? What are these nootropics? What are some things that you think we should chat about? Like, how does that usually look?
Yeah. So it took me quite some time to, I actually built out like an assessment form where like basically it's like a custom nootropic stack. So basically I built out this like screening form, which I gather information from clients about their focus, their anxiety, their concentration, their response to caffeine, response to stimulants. And I basically collect that data from them, and then I build out like a personalized nootropic stack. Now that is because it's really difficult to measure neurotransmitters in the brain. Like you've got the metabolites, which, you know, we pee out in our urine, but I would say it's not the most reliable proxy because you know, it depends on, number one, where the neurotransmitters are being released, number two, how they're binding to the receptors, and also the degrading enzymes like MAO-A or monoamine oxidase, or even the enzymes that accelerate conversion. So like tyrosine hydroxylase, which is shuttling tyrosine into L-DOPA. Like there's so many different, and then not to mention the cofactors. If you're low in iron, vitamin C, vitamin B6, B9, B12, copper, any of these like vitamins or minerals, that can actually impair like the synthesis of these neurotransmitters. And I'd say like probably the most popular one, or like the most famous pathway that I would say has been popularized by Gary Brecker, is the MTHFR polymorphism, which you would know a lot about as well. Even individuals that have a deficit in that ability to convert folic acid into folate, they're the ones that also struggle with ADHD, mood issues, anxiety. And that's because if you look deeper into the biochemical pathway, if you're not able to synthesize enough folate, then their whole neurotransmitter cascade is basically, there's like a little hot, it's like you're trying to blow up like an exercise ball, but you got a little puncture in there. So no matter how much air you put in, how many supplements you put in, if you got a little hole there, it's not going to actually inflate, sort of thing.
Yeah. And the other one I usually think about is the ZMA supplement. That was the big rage back in the day, right? For boosting testosterone, which, right, I think that's tryptophan turns into, or 5-HT, tryptophan, 5-HTP, serotonin, melatonin. So a lot of people try and just, and that would be my question is like, and I, to be transparent, when I first got into medicine, I was doing some of the urinary tests, some of the saliva stuff. I'm similar to just like with testosterone now. I just kind of like put them on something and move it up and down. Cause like you're saying, like, okay, you have the receptor, how much are you making? How much are you detoxing? Like with urinary, it's like, were all those metabolites in the last 5 minutes, or were they 3 or 4 hours ago? If you worked out, you're waking up. So I found that difficult. I kind of take a shotgun approach a lot of times. And I say, hey, these are things that make me feel good. So maybe what are some of the places then with guys you like starting? Are there specific supplements like a tyrosine or
I like I do. Well, actually, I like to start further back. For most people, is like I actually like starting with L-phenylalanine, because you've heard of like the essential amino acids versus non-essential amino acids.
Fill us in.
So essential amino acids are basically, there's like, I think 10 or 11, I can't remember. It's like there's a certain number of amino acids that you have to get from food or supplements. It's required from food. Your body can't actually make them to sustain, normal bodily functions and to help with protein, like building up protein. And on that list, your audience will be familiar with the BCAAs, so leucine, isoleucine, and valine. They've been around for years. People supplement BCAAs, but really we've learned over time that you actually need all of the essential amino acids, not just the BCAAs. And so everyone's now focused on the EAAs, essential amino acids. And so L-phenylalanine is part of that essential amino acid pool, which means that if we decide to supplement with phenylalanine versus L-tyrosine, we're actually supplementing with what the body actually needs. Whereas L-tyrosine is considered non-essential, meaning that the body can actually make it from phenylalanine. So a really great starting point for listeners is like, if they want to see what it feels like to deliberately increase the catecholamines, like dopamine, norepinephrine, epinephrine, then they can start with like 500 milligrams of phenylalanine on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. And they can literally observe and see how they feel from literally just doing that. And for some guys who have really low baseline dopamine, and they lack the catecholamines, and they also lack something known as, which I only recently discovered, by the way, is actually phenethylamine. Have you heard of phenylethylamine? It's like it's the body's endogenous
of alanine.
It's like it's an endogenous basically stimulant that the body creates, like a neurotransmitter that the body synthesizes, it's got a really weird name. Basically, it's found in dark chocolate. One of the
Oh.
reasons why they think dark chocolate's like stimulating is because it
Mhm.
actually contains phenethylamine. But one of the reasons why I like phenylalanine is because it actually can go down that phenethylamine pathway. And if you actually have
Mm.
a look at the ADHD studies, um, crazy research that I don't see any doctors really promoting or talking about is individuals that have low levels of phenethylamine actually are the ones that respond really well to like Ritalin and like Adderall and stimulants. So that's actually a marker that we can use to assess responsiveness to ADHD drugs, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've seen that they're starting to do more and more studies on SNPs, trying to figure out if they are low in amino acids before just jumping on an SSRI, which, right, that is just going to block the reuptake. And from what I'm hearing you, it's like, hey, dude, just go back to get the building blocks,
Yeah.
right? Like you need the building blocks. Phenylalanine gets converted into tyrosine. That's dopamine, epinephrine. And isn't there a small percentage of people that have the inability, they don't have the enzyme to make phenylalanine into
Oh,
tyrosine?
so the
HK.
phenylketonuria, a PKU,
Yeah,
why
that sounds right. Yeah.
which is why they put on the label of energy drinks and stuff like that. It's a really small percentage. I think most people can tolerate supplementing phenylalanine pretty well. And like you said there, man, like the SSRIs and the serotonin increasing drugs, like your audience is probably the guys that listen to your podcast are probably wanting to be more productive, have more energy, increase muscle, improve muscle growth, just feeling confident, and like they want those sort of effects. Whereas if you look at the SSRIs, they're increasing serotonin, which actually lowers our dopamine levels. It lowers responsiveness to dopamine.
Mm.
There's sort of that balance between serotonin and dopamine. And most guys that I know, when they tell me how they want to be feeling, they want to be feeling dopamine dominant. Hardly any of them want to actually feel serotonin dominant. Serotonin dominance would be you're feeling, like you want to just chill out on the couch all day. Like you don't want to just really do much. You want to just relax. Whereas dopamine does the opposite. It's like it's the willpower neurotransmitter.
Yeah, I always, with examples, I'll use extreme examples, right? So dopamine, you think a dopamine reuptake inhibitor like, cocaine, and then I think Molly is more targeted on serotonin. And so
Yeah.
people who are on Molly, it's just way more like, oh, I just feel so good. I feel relaxed. We're like, you get those dopamine because you're like, gotta do things. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And then there is obviously too much in those areas,
Mm.
right? And so you're saying, hey, let's just plug the pathway. Let's get them. So we got phenylalanine, we got tyrosine. And the thing
Mm-hmm.
that I was trying to think of is caffeine's broken down in paraxanthine, theobromine, and theophyllanine,
Yeah.
right? Did we chat offline maybe about paraxanthine?
We did. I'm really close with the guy that pioneered the paraxanthine. So we'll break it down for your audience. So caffeine gets caffeine actually has three major metabolites, like you said. The first major metabolite is paraxanthine. The second one is I think theobromine, and then third is theophylline.
Theophylline.
Um, Now theophylline, let's ride that off because it's dirty. I think it's vasoconstrictive. It's got some side effects. So we don't really no. It's got some effects on blood flow that we don't really want to be using. Theobromine, yeah, we actually do use that in pre workouts and like it's found in cacao in high amounts. And then paraxanthine is the newer, like the cleaner stimulant metabolite of caffeine that um, has some insanely cool research, by the way. Like if you type in paraxanthine cognition healthy adults on PubMed, you'll see that it improves like cognitive flexibility, memory performance. Yeah, without many of the side effects associated with caffeine, which is pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, I've been playing with it a little bit more for the reasons that you've chatted about. Caffeine, and I've even heard that I think with theobromine, it's just not as clean. There's more vasoconstriction with it. More, it's just overly sympathetic compared to the paraxanthine, which were, and do you know mechanism action? Like, because caffeine, right, blocks the adenosine receptor. I usually tell people, I'm like, it's actually a pesticide. It's trying to kill bugs that eat, right? Like coffee or whatever the tea is. And then we release adrenaline and we upregulate production. Is that off the top of your head? Does that sound right?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah. Like paraxanthine it blocks adenosine receptors, which is similar to caffeine.
Okay.
But it also has some effects on inhibiting phosphodiesterase, so that increases cyclic AMP. So I would wonder whether or not it has more potent fat burning effects versus caffeine. That's actually, because we know that caffeine increases fat burning, and it does that through heaps of different cool pathways. But I wonder whether or not paraxanthine would have a more potent effect on fat burning. That would be pretty cool.
Well, and that's interesting. You say phosphodiesterase, right? That's tadalafil works, right? So that's for Cialis, or I have a lot of guys take it because there's some research showing its ability to like either upregulate or increase the androgen receptor sensitivity to testosterone. And then also, I mean, it's just blood flow. And what's interesting that you say about that is if the theobromine and the phenylalanine, the other,
the phenylalanine.
The third metabolite of caffeine.
Yeah, the theophylline.
Yeah, it's something with the P. Yeah, yes. If those are vasoconstrictive, and then you have the paraxanthine being a phosphodiesterase inhibitor. So for those who don't know, right, phosphodiesterase is what shrinks the blood vessels. Yeah. Right. So when you take tadalafil, your blood vessels open up like you have a nitric oxide supplement, and then phosphodiesterase eats up that and it shrinks it. And so you block the thing that shrinks your blood vessels.
Yeah.
And then also, like you're saying, it's going to upregulate adrenaline. So we get the dopamine, we get all the energy. That's probably like the most popular nootropic, right? When you talk about caffeine, right? Like if you want to talk about, like, most people are like, oh, I take that, I feel better. And we hit a little bit, right, about kind of that dopamine pathway with phenylalanine and with tyrosine. Anything else in that realm?
Yeah, well, this is where it gets really cool. Is like, all right, we can provide the body with the precursor substrates to make dopamine, so phenylalanine or tyrosine. You can either start with one and see how you respond, or you can even combine both and have 500 milligrams of both to begin with. By the way, you can go way, way, way higher dosages on tyrosine. You can go up to like 6 grams, like 4 to 6 grams, ridiculously high dose. I've never really needed that much. I think it's a bit too much. But so let's look at this. So you're providing the body with the precursor material. Now, what do you do to keep the dopamine active in the brain for a longer period of time? That's where Catuaba fits into the whole picture, because the alkaloids, funnily enough, Catuaba is actually from the same plant family as cocaine. The actual herb itself is from, like, if you look closely at the alkaloids in Catuaba, there's some of them that appear to act as dopamine reuptake inhibitors. So there's natural dopamine reuptake inhibitors found within this particular herb. So you can imagine what will happen if you stack phenylalanine with Catuaba. You got the precursor material, and then you've got the Catuaba that inhibits the breakdown. Together, you're just keeping dopamine levels like topped up, ready to rock and roll sort of thing, just in your brain for a longer period of time. So it's pretty awesome. If you look up the reviews on, like, if you just look at what people say about Catuaba online, like on, those like underground forums and all that sort of stuff, those places we like to hang out. People will say like the herb is a really nice feeling herb, like, and it's not surprising. I mean, if you're going to work on that system, it's going to feel like a feel good herb. Basically, it's going to put you in a good mood. It's going to make you feel more excited, more talkative, more social, more confident. And then if you want to like add on top of that an additional layer to it, I feel like if you stack something that increases GABA, like a big dose of taurine, like we're talking like 3 grams of taurine or like 2 grams of inositol, man, you've got like a recipe for like a perfect night out. You know, like you're feeling confident, social, you're in the mood, you want to meet people, you're feeling swagger, sort of good about yourself. Like it's awesome, man.
Well, yeah, when you said I was thinking Red Bull vodka, right? Like that's kind of what people like. You know, you get the caffeine, you get the uppity, and then you got the alcohol, which is GABA agonist, right? In which that's what you're kind of going for with the inositol and taurine, right? And so maybe also, you know, when I talk about neurotransmitters, I like to hear your feedback. I try and talk about like a car. You know, I use cars for most things because guys get cars, and it's not necessarily
they're so mechanical in their thinking. That's why.
It kind of, you know, I like analogies too. But I'd love to hear your feedback. So the way a lot of times I'll chat about, I'm like, okay, we're going to look at, you know, dopamine, like you chatted, is like the excited, let's go out, let's do something, you know, and I think about that like the gas, right? Like how much dopamine is how much gas that you're hitting, how fast are you going? And you can definitely have way too much gas, and we'll kind of break that apart. And then serotonin, you've talked about, is really like the how good things feel, right? So to me, it's kind of like, are the windows down? Is there a baby in the car crying? Is the music on? Like, how joyful is the joyride? And like, how loud is the music? You know, you can definitely have the music too loud. You can have you can have the speed too loud, right? And then I also kind of like think transmission and like handling with the serotonin. It's like, how are you navigating that speed? And then I think about acetylcholine, like the driver's focus, right? Like, do you know where you're going? Right? Because if you don't have acetylcholine, you're just like, right? You're like kind of all over the place. And then I use GABA as the brake. Like, you don't want the brakes on all the time, but you need to be able to have it there when you need it. Yeah. So that's kind of how I usually break it down. I think those are kind of the main ones. Like, you can throw dopamine, you know, epinephrine comes from dopamine, but I'd be interested in your thoughts. And then like, that's how I view it. You're like, okay, that's
a great analogy. I think that's a really a good way to look at it. Like the way you sort of break down, yes, GABA is going to act as the brake pedal. Dopamine is the gas. You could say like the norepinephrine would be like putting your car in sports mode.
Yeah,
because it's like, you know, very just intense, a bit more intense. But I feel like guys are like, people will be listening to this and thinking like, I feel like I'm like, some people might say they feel like they've got the energy, but they're scattered, and their brain is not like they've got the willpower and the motivation, but they're just feeling like scattered. I feel like that is a case for excess glutamate. And like glutamate is a great example would be if you go out to like a Chinese restaurant, you have like, you know, they put MSG in some foods. It can stimulate you. Like you feel like you're getting a really like reinforcing effect from the food. You feel excited, you get that buzz, and then you crash. And then you get that like headache or that come down. The next day you might be really just can't focus, can't lock in. And that's where I think sequestering and sort of dampening glutamate is really important, like really, really, really important for like being able to lock onto tasks. And a lot of people don't realize this, but glutamate can be increased through like excess heavy metal exposure, excess mold exposure, feeling like when you get sick, if you're sleep deprived, the body actually increases glutamate, which is so unfair and frustrating.
It's unfair.
It's so annoying. Because like that's why when people they're sleep deprived, they're more irritable. They're just like they're just not making decisions well. They're just an irritable, you know, like they're just unable to do that. I think that's a result of having too much glutamate.
So we get too much glutamate, then how do we get rid of it? And I know I like to focus more on supplements. you know, if you want to throw some lifestyle stuff in, I hope at this point, if people are listening to you and me, look, the exercise, the sleep, no alcohol, like, you know what I'm saying? I think most times we can skip that. But if there's something grounding or taking a cold shower, if there's anything that comes to your mind, you know.
Yeah, I'm all for combining. Well, I mean, to get the best out of supplements, it needs to be combined with lifestyle. And, you know, we've spoken about this: diet, lifestyle, exercise, that sort of stuff is going to have an impact on neurotransmitters as well. Like, for example, going on a really, like, doing a high intensity HIIT session can help to recalibrate the glutamate to GABA system a little bit. So some people, when they feel really irritable and anxious, they, you know, when they get to do a big workout where they're getting their heart rate up, that workout itself can help to recalibrate the glutamate to GABA ratio, which is pretty cool. But if people want to try and do it through supplements, really great options here are magnesium L-threonate. That's a great one. Taurine, as I mentioned before. L-theanine is another one, 200 milligrams.
That's the one I like. L-theanine, right? And that I can remember, that's one we learned in med school in neuro, like glutamate to GABA kind of helps with that.
Yeah. L-theanine's a potent blocker of GABA to glutamate conversion. So you're blocking the conversion of GABA to glutamate, which is pretty cool. Lemon balm is another herb that works pretty well. Apigenin sort of can help with that, offsetting the glutamate, which is found in chamomile. And then another herb that I love using with clients that say they can't switch off at nighttime is magnolia bark.
Yeah. What's HMB?
HMB. Oh,
it's like that. Is it DMHB? I'll grok it real quick.
Oh, DHHB.
Is that
it? Dihydrohinochiol.
Yeah, hinochiol.
Sorry, yeah. Dihydrohinochiol. Feel like we're speaking another language here, man.
I'm weird. I have to make so many. It's funny when people meet me, I say, yeah, Michael, the Archangel. Like I try and I have to make connections to things. I actually had a really hard time in med school. I can't sit down and you just tell me something. I have to, like, you probably heard that with memorizing. There's like the analogy of like going in the house. Like the car thing helped me remember. Yeah, I mean, like I have to use those things. And
it's like, is it associative learning where you're
that sounds right.
Yeah, you're connecting ideas to things that you already know really well. Yeah, I feel like that works pretty well for me. I used to be a mnemonics. Have you heard of mnemonics?
Yeah, where you like you'll use all five the letters of first five things, and like what's it? FACE. That's in music, right? FACE, face.
Yeah. So. I was big on that in terms of my my learning style. But yeah, I mean, with the glutamate side of things, there's many different ways that people can like dampen the effects of glutamate. I think it's just going to be a matter of sort of trial and error for people to see how they respond to different things. Yeah. Do
you like playing with anything? I wish I had it in here. Shout out to Cosmic Nootropics. I have the Phenylpiracetam. I'd like to chat about that. But Phenubut, and then there's another kind of GABA agonist. One of the
Picamillon.
Which one is it?
Picamillon.
I have not used that one. I don't know that one.
Or the other one might have been
some Bizol. I thought it was an antifungal, something Zol. Anyways, people are like, this guy's a doctor. Why don't you fill us in on, like, do you like Phenubut? So like, right, what you're chatting about here, we're using this GABA, which is also, and I use the example of alcohol, right? Alcohol, GABA, benzodiazepines.
Yeah, right? I was gonna mention, I mean, with so Phenibut is like the heavy hitter. That's like the one that I wouldn't recommend people use more than like once every couple of weeks, because it's, I would say, a little bit dirty and habit forming and slightly addictive. But and that's because it tickles. I like to say it tickles the GABA B receptor. But I would actually like to say that microdosing lithium. Have you ever used lithium?
Dude, I have some, and it's one of the ones that I think we chatted about this a couple of months ago. I have some. dude, I just got all this other stuff in. Kyle sent me stuff. I got stuff from Cosmic. You know, I'm like, I'm trying to limit the variables.
I know, I know.
But
It's the
I went
hardest thing to do
I
one
went
at a
down the
time.
rabbit hole. Lithium, you know, it's funny because it reminds me of these other medications like hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, methylene blue, these things that are very well established and worked, but they've been completely demonized. Like here,
Yeah,
lithium, people are like, oh, be careful. It can send you into psychosis or whatever. And I was like looking at the doses. I'm like, where are these studies that
yeah,
lithium is dangerous, especially at a lower dose?
yep.
So I don't know what you found.
Yeah, so the lithium, I've been looking into it a little bit, and I did try it for the first time ever, like a week ago, and I'm just hoping that I can get the same effect as when I first tried it. Because the first time that I tried it, man, I actually felt like this really strong sense of like calm. I felt like I know how it works. It's got some pretty cool mechanisms, but it felt like I was stoned, like for a
Hmm.
good 12 hours, or like probably even longer. I felt really relaxed, really calm. Um, I woke up feeling just more inner peace sensation, like probably similar to what you've had from some psychedelics um, in the past. But for me, it actually was reminiscent of microdosing psilocybin. It
Hmm.
was I literally had a very similar effect, and I'm like, man, like there's definitely some crossover here between lithium. It was lithium, by the way. It was lithium orotate at
Yeah, that's what I got.
1 milligram though.
Yep. I
So
think
it's
that's
just
what
a
I ordered and I have mine around.
life extension.
I don't probably, I hope. I don't
Yeah,
yeah, I like extension. I don't remember some my thing over there.
I ended up just using 1 milligram life extension, and oh man, like I had a good 2-3 days of that effect. It sort of faded away though. I was a
Mm.
bit disappointed, and I sort of found like it was actually becoming too like I wasn't able to like get shit done as much on it because it was too mellowing, sort of. But man, if you look at the research on lithium, um, there's literally like a research study that was released a few years ago talking about how lithium stops Alzheimer's disease progression. Um, it was like early stage, but um, very different to lithium carbonate, 170 milligrams, which is what they prescribe to bipolar
That's what I was
patients.
gonna I was gonna bring that up, right? It's that's what it's been known to be used for
Yeah.
is bipolar. And then did you have a mechanism of action? Is it I forget, is
Oh
it
man,
dopamine,
it's
serotonin, or everything?
it's crazy what it does. Like it's actually, I took a deep dive into how it actually works, but it does a lot of different things. Number one, it does help to reduce glutamate, and it also helps to reduce norepinephrine. So it blocks the conversion of dopamine into norepinephrine. It modulates, stabilizes dopamine. So if it's too high or too low, it sort of stabilizes it.
Hmm.
Um, and it inhibits something known as GSK3 beta, which is like glycogen synthase kinase, something like that, that
Yeah.
results in like an increase in BDNF. Um, it's a I would say it's a neuroplasticity compound for sure.
Well, and then maybe we can chat about some of the other um what do I want to say? uh, I don't know if it's you'd want to say adaptogenic or maybe these things like lithium have multiple actions, right? Like you did a whole video on
Phenyl.
phenylpiracetam, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. And I
Yeah,
also recommend it a lot to different
I love it.
clients.
It's one of the I rotate. I have my basics, which we can chat about acetylcholine a little bit. I think you can remember in the past that's one of my favorites, which you really put uridyl monophosphate on the map for me.
Mhm.
Um, but I'd like to hear kind of your feedback on the phenylpiracetam and maybe some of the other I want to say adaptogenic or things that kind of have multiple actions that maybe you take regularly. Like if you're sitting down, what are some of your favorites?
Yeah, so phenylpiracetam, the reason why it caught my attention was because initially I was looking into like, what are the original nootropics, right? What are the original ones that are being used? And piracetam was like the original one. Lots of people are responding really well to it.
Yeah,
People
I got that one
combining
too.
with fully kitted. I love it.
Yeah. I had them all over. No pet.
Oh, sick.
Which we can chat about that one too.
Nice. That's actually, I haven't actually tried the new Pep, surprisingly. I can't believe that I haven't. Yeah. I don't know why I haven't tried it. I was worried it was going to make me too robotic.
They're similar. The thing with the new pet is just half-life's a little bit. I think it's like 10 to 100 times as potent as the paracetam, but its half-life is way, way shorter. It doesn't seem like it though. I mean, sometimes you'll hear about a drug with half-life. Like I think its half-life is like, I'm pretty sure it's under a half an hour, but I try and use, so I'll use the paracetam once or twice a week. The phenylpiracetam, I'm using that when I feel like I need more energy. Right. So maybe you can chat about that with the phenyl group. And then the no pet's kind of like they're putting in like more pre-workouts and stuff. So
yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it popping up quite a lot. Are we talking with the dosage? What sort of dosages are you using?
10 milligrams. 10?
Yeah.
Right. For no pet. For phenyl, it's like, what do you do? 50, 100, 200?
For me, 50 milligrams is sufficient.
Yeah, me too.
But with phenylpiracetam, it's important to note that if any athletes are listening to this, that compete, that do get drug tested, it's banned by WADA, which means it works. So
they banned it. Yeah. That's funny.
But look, phenylpiracetam, yes, tolerance can build. Yes, it does, modulate AMPA NMDA receptors. It also appears to upregulate dopamine receptors, which is pretty cool. I would say guys that are trying to wean off modafinil or like maybe they don't want to be using their Ritalin or Adderall, like things like that, they can probably get away with using phenylpiracetam plus like tyrosine and Catuaba. Like that combination there would probably be enough to get them off the dirty drugs, basically.
Yeah.
So you got those ones. In terms of the effects, I mean, I like to do what you do as well, rotating, like just sort of rotate between them so you keep the body shocked or surprised about what's coming in. But I mean, I've used a bunch of different things over the years, and yeah, I tend to just find what's best is doing like a week on one stack, one compound, and then rotating the second week and then the third week, and just keeping the body like eagerly, awaiting the next new stimulus sort of thing. Because that's like you're basically reversing tolerance. And that's something that people complain about a lot is they just get tolerance to different things.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like I can imagine. And I think I read that with the phenylpiracetam. I don't think I've done over 50. Now that I think about it, I'm trying to think what these come in. Right. Cause I think no, I did a whole one. These are hundreds. So, or maybe I do half. But, that's when I read that definitely you build up a top. And it just seems like that's just something across the board, like all substances, alcohol, nicotine. Like you start with a little bit, it feels good. You downregulate the receptors, and then boom. Now you have to take twice as much to get the same amount.
Yeah.
So what's a basic nootropic stack for you look like? We haven't really chatted about acetylcholine either yet.
Yeah. So my body has become hypersensitive to choline supplements now. Like I feel like it's I don't know what's happened. It's like there's been some sort of receptor modulation or some sort of effect where like my body actually doesn't really need a choline supplement at all. Like the reason I say that is because number one, I mean, I'm not at university anymore, so I'm not studying for exams. So like, my work schedule and my lifestyle is different now, right? I'm getting on podcasts, I'm doing consulting, I'm developing supplements. Like for me, like I don't really need that insane level of memory optimization. I don't need that, which I get from alpha GPC and CDP choline. So, but back in the day, man, I was using a lot of CDP choline, alpha GPC, uridine for my exams, like to study for exams, like memory performance. And I'd also, every now and then, I'd bring in some methylene blue, which I didn't use it a lot, but I use it like 1 milligram every now and then to help with memory. And that was like, looking back, I feel like methylene blue is on par with like nicotine for the memory side of things. Like nicotine is really well researched to help with memory, and like short working memory, that sort of stuff. But methylene blue, I feel like is comparable to nicotine.
Yeah, I like methylene blue. When we chatted earlier about the MAO a little bit, right? For those who aren't familiar, monoamine oxidase is what's in your stomach that, you know, if I wanted to eat dopamine, I couldn't because your stomach would break it down. And so when you block that, not, you know, ayahuasca is how you block that in your stomach when you're eating it. But methylene blue, right, one of its major mechanisms is blocking the MAO. So we upregulate. So technically, MAO breaks down dopamine and we block the thing that breaks it down, right? So if you have 100, you know, and we didn't really chat about this, right? So you have like your, what's it, postsynaptic, you know, your neurons talking to each other, right? You have the release, it can bind to the next nerve. So if you have acetylcholine, it talks, it can bind, it can sit in the middle and get broken down, and it can get reuptaked, right? And so like you give your body more precursors, right? You give it more tyrosine, you're going to have more dopamine. And then if you block the reuptake, then those 100 that get released, if 33 is here, 33 is in the middle, 33 gets reuptake, you block the reuptake, then that forces 50 to talk, or 50, but then the other 50 get broken down, right? So like you're saying, like you're going to have more breakdown. So you definitely, like people that are taking, you know, Adderall, Ritalin, or using these dopamine, I'm like, hey, you should be taking more precursors to refunnel that. And then like you're saying, cofactors, right? So, you know, it does kind of depend on what you're doing in your everyday, what substance you're using, and then how you kind of plug that. I take just like a cognitive amino. It has like
Well,
just
it also
250 milligrams of everything.
it also depends as well, like what sort of foods you're eating. Because if
Oh
guys are
yeah.
eating a lot of liver, if
Yep.
all right, most guys that I know, they're having a lot of eggs as well, so they're just eating like 6 eggs a day. Nothing wrong with that. Personally, I freaking love eggs. You're probably the same as well. You probably have a lot. Do you have a lot, or are you sort of
I'm a
pretty
steak
balanced?
guy, really, honestly. I eat just a ton
Steak
of
for
red meat.
breakfast?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I do it often as well. I've been having veal. Is
Yeah.
it? Yeah, veal. It's so good. Making me hungry now because I just went to the gym before this podcast and I'm still fasting and I feel like my body's getting catabolic.
Oh, I hit the fruit smoothie with some protein before, so I'm all right to go for a while.
Nice. But yeah,
Yeah.
like I was saying with the choline. So for example, if a guy's eating a shitload of eggs, I'm talking like 4 or 5 eggs a day with the yolk, he's getting a decent amount of choline. So therefore, the requirement to supplement with choline is not as high. Whereas if a guy's not eating eggs and not eating liver, beef liver, chicken, and liver's also really high in choline. If they're not eating that, then they don't need it as much, you know?
Yeah, I was trying to think. I don't remember what other foods besides those two have choline.
I think
And then,
lentils, small amount.
okay. And
Not
then,
many
yeah,
other foods.
then I know that you have your methylation, biotin, all that's in a huge cycle. But I don't remember like, you know, it's not technically an essential amino acid. So then I would assume somehow we can create it. Because we didn't really chat about that food. We didn't even talk about like, you know, protein. You have 25 grams of protein. You basically have 25 grams of amino acids that are divided up in any way, shape, or form. So, right, that's what you're chatting. Like people always, oh yeah, I'm tired on Thanksgiving because I had turkey and turkey's high in tryptophan. I'm like, dude, there's other things that are way higher in tryptophan that don't make you tired. But yeah, taking that precursor, it's kind of makes sense. Or even we didn't chat about 5-HTP, right? Which is kind of that precursor. I don't know if do you use that at all?
Very, very rarely. Funnily enough, 5-HTP, if you look at the studies, supplementing with 5-HTP can actually increase cortisol in healthy adults. And also, if we're going to be ramping up serotonin, then there's probably going to be a prolactin spike with that as well. So yeah, guys don't respond well to it from my, like, when I talk to them compared to, like, some other ingredients. But some people will take it before bed and be completely fine. They'll use that in replacement of melatonin. So yeah, it just depends.
Why is high prolactin bad?
Oh, well, I mean, prolactin's basically, putting the handbrakes on testosterone production. So number one, it's, inhibiting testosterone production. Number two, makes a man not feel as good motivation wise, libido wise, just general vigor. They feel a bit more depressed. If a guy has high prolactin, like I'm talking like above 300, 400, good chance that he's pretty low mood, like just feeling a bit flat, maybe a bit more irritable, pessimistic about the world, like, having those sort of effects.
Yeah, prolactin is one of the few. I mean, there are guys who, they want to optimize their testosterone. You probably like, you got to measure your prolactin. Like if small percentage of guys will have a prolactinoma where their brain just has a small benign tumor, kind of benign, but it's producing high amounts of prolactin. And these guys come to you with all the symptoms of low T. Their T is low, but even if you up their T, the prolactin still kind of inhibits a lot of its like, umphiness, right? Prolactin, I think, okay, the prolactation hormone, what happens when women's prolactin's really high, they're lactating to breastfeed. They're not trying to run around and lift weights and all this stuff. So if you're a dude and your prolactin's high, like you're like, oh, I need to sit around and breastfeed. And, it's funny. Prolactin is one, like you're saying, the SARMs. I don't know how many. Do you see that like in blood work? I see when guys come to me and their blood work is like weird. Like they'll have like
weird
high free T, but then their totals like really, really low and their prolactin's high and their FSH and LH are like either high or through the roof. I'm like, what SARM are you on? Because this makes no sense.
I love it how you describe it as weird, because it's like you can't achieve that naturally. So it is weird. It actually is weird because they're like breaking the rules of biology with SARMs. And it's like only a smart doctor like yourself can pick up on that and be like, hang on a second, you're doing something. Your SHBG is too low.
Yeah.
Your free T is super high, but your FSH and LH are low. Like, what's going on here? Or like, your liver markers are clearly indicating you're hepatotoxic. So yeah, it's funny you bring up SARMs, man. I think a lot of guys out there have the impression that they can just use the SARMs in replacement of TRT or steroids, and they're using SARMs thinking that they can, bypass the risks, right? It's safer, blah, 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 blah. It's not safer. Like, it's just the way they've been positioned in the market is that they're like steroid alternatives that are free of side effects associated with steroids, but it's not true, because they actually are full of side effects if you're using the wrong dosage, the wrong amount. Look, don't get me wrong. I've even used some SARMs. Like I've used a microdose of Ostarine. I've used like 5 milligrams of Ostarine, which is, if you look at the studies, at 3 milligrams a day in adults, it was enough to increase muscle mass and decrease muscle breakdown. So but then you see supplement brands selling 20 milligram capsules, right? So then, it's literally like 8 times, 7 times the recommended dosage. You're wondering why guys are getting suppressed. because they're taking too much and they're taking it for 8 weeks. And it's like, yeah, that's why. But ostarine is, I think, now being researched in terms of offsetting semaglutide muscle loss. So they're going to be studying ostarine to prevent muscle loss on semaglutide, which is pretty interesting.
I mean, it makes sense. The thing with, I tell that to most guys. I'm like, why even play with these things? They're not that well researched. We don't understand the mechanism of action. And in all honesty, if I were to use one after, and I've just had too many horror stories on them now, especially Rad 140. I had so many guys like, oh, I felt good for 4 to 6 weeks, and now I haven't had an erection in 8 months. Like, doesn't sound like a good risk first reward, dude. My opinion, what's happening is like, if we're increasing the sensitivity of the receptor and there's still some type of output, right? So basically you're making your 1-testosterone 10 times as potent. So you're going to down regulate the body's need for it, right? So if your testosterone is now 10 times as potent, your brain will read that, right? Like the same way that it reads it in your muscle, your hypothalamus is going to like, okay, I asked for this much testosterone feedback. Wow, I asked for this much. I have way more than I want. Let's just shut everything down. And then we don't understand how that's working in the testes and the muscles and the heart and the brain differently, right? Like we know that with enclomiphene, which is a selective estrogen receptor modulator, it works differently in different places, right? In the brain, it antagonizes, but it doesn't do that as much in the breast and in the bone, which it does in the breast, not in the bone, right? Because if it antagonized the bone, you'd get weak bones, right? But like in something like gynecomastia or breast cancer, it makes sense that you'd want to antagonize it in the breast. You'd want to antagonize it in the brain. So, but then in the brain, it increases the signal. And that's how we get more testosterone. So the issue then with testosterone. Oh, did I go away for a little bit?
I was back. Yep.
Got kicked me off my Wi-Fi. Yeah, I don't know. I had a guy lactating. One guy came to me honestly lactating on it, which makes, the FSH.
What was he taking?
Bro, he's on like 3 of them. Rad 140.
Yeah. LGD
4033, and it wasn't ostarine. What's the other popular one?
YK11 or
I don't think so. He might have even been using enclomiphene with it, now that I think about it, right? So he was trying to, just everything about his labs made absolutely no sense. So I tell guys, at that point, you might as well just do TRT, honestly. Which is funny because I didn't use my example. I when I'm talking about the car, then I say that your testosterone is kind of your engine or your horsepower, right? Because the more horsepower you have, the more dopamine you have, it works synergistically. And at the same time, if you have a stronger engine, less gas goes further. You can burn it up quicker, but it maximizes your potential, right? Like testosterone increases our production and sensitivity to dopamine and serotonin. So, good luck having a lot of these things work if your testosterone's in the tank. Like, sorry, like you're just not going to get that feedback. So, any other thoughts about anything new on the testosterone front before we close out?
Yeah. I'm pretty excited to, I'm actually really excited for more research on some peptides that can increase testosterone. It's not really well established, but there is, let me see if it was VDAC. There was one particular, I actually did a post on it on my Instagram.
I wasn't familiar with this one.
Yeah, I would actually be really, really, really pay close attention to this one, because I reckon it's going to pop off and become ACE 167, ACE 167. Apparently it works through a really interesting pathway. It's actually working within the mitochondria to accelerate conversion of cholesterol into pregnenolone or something like that, which is pretty cool. So again, it's not something that's commercially available yet, but man, you and I know how cool peptides are, how precision in terms of their effects they can be. I reckon that this ACE 167, by targeting a specific part within the mitochondrial membrane of the Leydig cells can actually, it facilitates the transport of cholesterol into the mitochondria. So this is an endogenous like stimulator of testosterone, which is pretty freaking cool, man. It's cool for guys that don't want to go on TRT.
Yeah. I'm hoping someday I don't have to be. I'm like, people who've been following me know I'm on TRT. I would prefer. I'm actually doing the what's the oral Crytrex. I'm trying that out for a little bit.
No,
Yeah.
Trex.
Yeah. So far, so good. It's a testosterone undecanoate. It's supposed to have a 2 to 6 hour half-life. I transitioned from shots. I've done creams. I've kind of mixed them both together. Then I went from cream with the oral. Because then I also use ACG. I don't think it's necessary, but I just prefer that I have my fertility online. My gonads don't shrink. But it would be really cool if you get to a point where, number one, you could do something just oral, like you're saying, and especially if it could just be endogenous. I think that's why enclomiphene has such the appeal that it has.
Yeah.
And so this one's called ACE, like ACE 167.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. I'll dive into that one. That's interesting. Because I think we chatted.
Man.
The only ones I've seen that actually, and I think a lot of the issue with the peptides is just like their half-life's not long enough. You know, like gonadorone's half-life things like 20 or 30 minutes. And so people are trying to use that to remain fertile on TRT. It's like, dude, your Cypionate has a 10-day half-life, at least 7 or not. Everyone will argue with me. It's funny. It's one of the ones I get, no, bro, enanthete's longer. It's like, dude, show me the stat. Like the studies have kind of both, but more studies show Cypionate to be longer. So if you're taking like a peptide like gonadorone that lasts like 30, 45 minutes, does make a lot of sense to me. If you want to, for fertility, maybe to keep your natural production for 45 minutes. But then we chatted about kisspeptin. You know, that's one that can upregulate natural production, but it doesn't have enough research on it. Now I'm still kind of skeptical. And I think I saw one, I could be completely wrong. And I don't mean to fearmonger. I thought I saw one where they blasted someone. It may have just been a rat. I don't recall. And they gave it too much and it like completely did shut down their HB axis permanently. I saw like
kisspeptin.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it was on a rat. I think it was like 100x the dose. Like I said, I'm not trying to fearmonger. If someone's in the comments and remembers the study, that would be cool. But I saw one like that and I was like, And I still, I told guys, like, this is how I work with guys. I'm like, hey, if you want to try it out, it works. Like I still have guys use it. They can get their tests up to 1,000 to 1,200 on it. Natural FSH, LH go up, similar to using delta sleep inducing peptide. So it would be interesting if some of these more mitochondrial boosting things, that makes sense to me, right? Because we're going to produce more, the cholesterol and pregnenolone. The thing I'd have to be like, okay, how do we get it funneled into testosterone versus DHEA? Does it stop at DHEA? Does it make it to estradiol? So, yeah.
Super interesting. Yeah, we'll keep a lookout for that new research on the ACE 167 peptide because I think it's really early stages. I think they announced it like 2023, but it's pretty promising, man. Like if we can, you've seen how popular enclomiphene is now.
Yeah.
It's
everything
freaking crazy, man.
BPC, like name, like it's just like all of them, the peptides are all the rage.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Well, I appreciate you having me on the potty as always.
Maybe we'll do follow up one here soon on maybe more mitochondria health or peptides. I think that would be fun to chat about. Do you want to make one last plug for your supplement? Where can people find you?
Yeah, they can if they want to check out the Catuaba we spoke about, and they can check that out at inbeforesups.com. So that's inb4sups.com. Or they just go to my Instagram. That's ergogenic_health.
Cool. I'll find you for sure. Well, thanks for joining me as always, Luke. So it's always edifying on my end. I like, sharing ideas with you, and it's been a pleasure. I'm trying to think, when was our first one? It was like 2018 or 19.
Oh man, it was a long time ago. Yeah.
It was before COVID. So,
jeez.
it's funny to see how everything's changed in such a short time. So
I
appreciate your friendship and always sharing knowledge with me, man. I appreciate your work, what you do for the community, and wish you best of luck with everything.
Thank you, man. No, I appreciate it. All the best.
And to all the listeners, thanks for joining us. Until next time, God bless.